All I do is win, 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 no matter what. And every time I step up in the building, everybody's hands go up for the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Welcome back to all of you, our previous viewers. Welcome in for you joining us for the first time here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we discuss and celebrate all things college football across the entire landscape of this great nation. But we put a special emphasis on our beloved Black and Golds, the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Missouri Tigers. Wow, what a week 3 we had. I'm your host, Blair Parks. I'm coming to you again live. This is Tuesday morning, the 21st. Here in Missouri, very, very fall-like day. Overcast, a little doom and gloom, a little mist, a little brisk out there. So that makes me feel all nice and warm and cuddly inside. I'm giddy because that means fall is officially here, which tomorrow is officially the first day of the fall season. But just when you have weather like what's going on down here today, it just lets me know that we're almost to the meat and potatoes of conference college football time. It's right around the corner, and it's great to be here sharing that with you. As always, for those of you who have been with us before, I thank you very much for your time. Please spread the word, continue to like, share, subscribe. The more people we have, the better. I want to keep the conversations going. I want to get your feedback, your perspective on all things college football. But feel free, something to do with our Black and Golds, share with me. And my opening song there was a homage to what I titled Week 3 was Just Win, Baby. Week 3, a lot of teams did that. A lot of teams and conferences did not, which we will dive into here shortly in this episode. I say this every week. We have a great episode lined up for you. I've got 6 topics that I'm going to be presenting and discussing with you today. As normal, we're going to have storylines and headlines first. Then I'm going to give you some of my quick takes from week 3, then followed by the AP poll post week 3. Then after that will be my updated team power rankings after week 3. Then the 5th topic will be kind of let you know what I saw from our beloved Black and Golds, kind of give you a little bit of critique and analysis on the Missouri and Iowa game. And then our last topic will kind of revisit how I did on the week 3 pick'em segments, everybody's favorite segment, see how I did on picks. So let's go ahead and dive right into it, shall we? All right, so our first topic today, storylines and headlines. Have a few to share with you today. Boy, oh boy, the hits just keep coming. Unfortunately, I have some bad injury news to share with you. It seems like this is getting to be a weekly update. More bad news, but when it rains, it pours. The UCF quarterback Dillon Gabriel, suffered a broken clavicle on the very last play of Friday night's game at Louisville. And this was a wild game, first and foremost. Kind of side note, if you didn't watch this one, it was an instant classic. UCF came in undefeated, a 7-point favorite at an ACC opponent. The ACC to this point has struggled and quite frankly continued to struggle. I'll get to that here soon. Just tune in. But the last minute of this game was absolutely wild. That's all I can say. Louisville has the ball on their side of the 40-yard line, give or take, maybe the 45. Need a touchdown to win. That play, there's a Karam interception. UCF takes over. And I think the second or maybe even the very first play on their offensive series, UCF throws a interception that's then returned for a pick six. On the ensuing kickoff, UCF gets it, has, I think, time for one or two plays, and Dillon Gabriel broke his collarbone. He was caught up in the hook and ladder play that ended the game. So tough break for Dylan Gabriel. There's been no timeline set for his return. They have said that surgery is not required. And that injury itself, usually you can bounce back pretty quickly from. But so they do expect him back at some point this regular season. But we'll have to just watch the clock. Another thing, if you missed it, wow, we had a shootout between SMU and Louisiana Tech. Now, if you recall, this was our non-Power 5 matchup spotlight game for Week 3 picks, and it did not disappoint. Once again, this guy keeps on picking the games that you want to be aware of, and for the second week in a row, we had a Hail Mary walk-off winner. Last week, it was Jacksonville State at Florida State winning on a Hail Mary. This week, SMU, as time expires, Hail Mary caught in the end zone. Walk-off winners, 39-37. SMU with the victory, which this guy also predicted too. You know, give myself a little, that feels nice, that feels good. So what a game we had between those non-Power 5 teams in SMU and Louisiana Tech. And to wrap up our storylines and headlines segment today, no bueno, no mas. Florida State went on the road and lost to Wake Forest on Saturday, which the loss itself is not a big surprise. This Wake Forest squad came in 2-0, very well coached, very balanced team in the ACC, kind of a team that no one's really talking about. And they also were favored at home, which how many times can you say that you saw Wake Forest being favored against Florida State? They took care of business. 35-14 was the final score. But with that loss, Florida State now falls to Ophir. Donut. 0-3 on the season. The first time they've started 0-3 since 1976, which was the late, great coach's first year, Bobby Bowden. So Florida State, it looks like things are going to get worse there in Tallahassee before they get better. I hope not. I want this team to be relevant again. I want someone to step up, challenge Clemson in the ACC, but this year, so far, it seems like Clemson is challenging themselves offensively. But I want this team to return to its glory days. We need this as college football fans. We want them back. But I think things need to still get way worse before they get better there at Florida State. Now, let's move into my quick takes. And they may not be too quick depending on who you ask, but my quick takes from Week 3. First of all, let me start with a couple of conferences. The Pac-12. Yikes. If you've been watching, I have been bullish. I've been riding high on the Pac-12 up till this past week. They definitely had the two most resonating victories, UCLA over LSU on week 1, and then Oregon going to Ohio State and defeating the Buckeyes. But week 3 brought all this back down to earth. I mean, they were flying high like Icarus. They got too close to the sun, and now they've come crashing back down to earth. I love Greek mythology, by the way. Or maybe that might be Roman. Either way, mythology in general. This is what we saw happen. The South Division of the Pac-12 specifically, and this is what I did mention during episode 3 and 4, previews and predictions, that this was going to be a highly contested division. Probably the highest, deepest division maybe in all of college football. I know the blasphemy that you SEC West fans are saying right now or thinking, and you Big Ten East folks, how dare you? But the Pac-12 South did not have a banner day. Far from it. They had 5 matchups with fellow Division I opponents. They had one, I believe, one conference matchup. That was USC traveled to Washington State, and USC did rebound after the firing of Clay Helton to get a much-needed victory. but they were 0-5 in those matchups. Ofer. And in case you need a little bit more education, I've asked Dean Wormer. Dean Wormer, the Pac-12 South. What was their win percentage this past weekend? It was 0.0. Thank you, Dean Wormer. That's exactly what happened. It all came crashing down. Colorado lost to Minnesota, hosted Minnesota, coming off a near win last week against a top 10, actually I think it was a top 5 Texas A&M squad. We thought maybe the Buffaloes and Coach Carl Durrell would turn the corner. But Minnesota, the Fighting Gophers, the Fighting Fleckers, Sky U effing Ma, went there and took care of business. Throw a shutout, 30-0. Utah, who was a team that I actually did predict them to win the Pac-12 South, which they still could do, off to a very, very poor, slow start. Utah lost in 3 overtimes to Mountain West opponent San Diego State. Well done for you, the Aztecs. You're 3-0 on the young season, but they defeat the Utes 33-31. Next, number 19, Arizona State traveled to BYU. This was a good game. This is not necessarily what you could deem as a huge upset, but BYU was also ranked, but they were ranked lower. Arizona State leaves Provo with a 27-17 loss, and kudos to BYU. You know me, I have a place in my big heart for the Cougars. They're now 3-0 on the young season. But more importantly, they are 3-0, undefeated against Pac-12 opponents, and that includes victories over not 1 but 2 ranked opponents at the time. Well done, BYU. Not so good, Arizona State. Now, the next one, the big one. Well, these are both equally big, but I'll let you be the judge. Number 13, UCLA, who was looking very impressive so far, absolutely beat the asses of LSU and Coach Ed Ogeron, Go Tigers, in week 1. They come out and lose to Mountain West opponent Fresno State, 40-37. I did not stay up late and watch this game, but watching the highlights and the replay, what a game. Probably right now, to me, the game of the year, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to I'll get to this game a little bit more later, but big time loss at home for the Bruins in the Rose Bowl. They took a huge tumble in the AP poll, which we'll get to next. Stay tuned. But the biggest one to me, and it adds further insult to injury, just putting some salt in that open wound of the Pac-12, Arizona. The Wildcats are now 0-3. This year, transitions, welcoming a brand new coach in Coach Fish. But they now improved to 0-3 after losing to FCS opponent Northern Arizona 21-19. The FCS, they score another victory over Division I opponents, and this time at the behest of a Power 5 opponent in Arizona. So once again, 0.0. It was also Mr. Butovsky's GPA and what the Pac-12 South did over the weekend. Awful showing for the Pac-12. Later this week, during my Week 4 preview, which should be out Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, I'll definitely give you my updated conference power rankings, and that'll be reflected in those. Now, the next conference I want to bring to your attention is the ACC. They absolutely continue to underperform and to look very unimpressive, very pedestrian. They entered week 3 of just win, baby, with 4 ranked teams, and they leave week 3 with only 2. Now only 2 remain. And two of those ranked opponents, Miami and Virginia Tech, both lost to unranked opponents. Number 24, Miami, got absolutely manhandled by the Spartans, who are off to an impressive 3-0 victory. Way to go, Sparty. Lost at home, 38-17. And number 15, Virginia Tech, lost at the West Virginia Mountaineers, a game that I called that upset as well. Thank you very much. So both of those teams have now fallen out of the AP poll. So now all we have left is number 6 Clemson in week 3, and then number 21 North Carolina did take care of business, but number 6 Clemson. And let's spend a little bit more time talking about Clemson. Because as I said last week, Clemson is holding the water for the entire ACC at this point. They're the dinghy, they're the lifeboat, but they're taking on water. Now it is absolutely pouring in. It is all every man, woman, and child for themselves. Clemson got the victory this weekend against a Georgia Tech squad that, if you recall, week 1 got spanked at home against Northern Illinois, the Hawkeyes out of the MAC. Clemson gets the victory 14-8. 14 points is all this team has. That's all they could put up against Georgia Tech. Kind of reference Major League. When you say 14 points is like saying one hit, that's all we got, one goddamn hit. That's what Clemson is looking at. 14 points. What is going on offensively? And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. But yowza, the ACC, wow. So that Clemson did fall in the AP poll because of that poor showing. And to add more salt into the wound of the ACC conference now, Pittsburgh, who scored a very impressive win last week in week 2 at Tennessee, they lost at home to the Western Michigan Broncos at home 44-41. Wow, not another poor showing for the ACC this week. And I've been kind of waxing poetically that I was this close to giving up on the ACC. I think now that day has come. McGuire is here. I could have them sing Ave Maria or Amazing Grace, but I'm going to go ahead and speak the words of Michael Corleone to Fredo. ACC, you're nothing to me now. You're not a brother. You're not a friend. I don't want to know you or what you do. I don't want to see you at the hotels. I don't want to see you near my house. When you want to see our mother, you let me know in a day in advance, so I won't be there. ACC, you are dead to me. I think you've got little to no shot to rebound and make the playoff. I could be wrong, but I am very sure about this. You are absolutely out of this race for the playoff. So moving on, the streak is alive, and I will definitely talk about this more later about our Iowa Hawkeyes, our beloved Iowa Hawkeyes. The streak is alive. It has now reached 25 games, and what I'm referring to, the Iowa defense has not allowed an opponent to score 25 points or more for 25 straight games. Very impressive streak. Almost ungodly to imagine that with what's going on in this day and age of points. That is an absolutely amazing stat, and I'm actually going to break down the streak by numbers later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. The 400-plus yard club. We had some amazing numbers put up by a few quarterbacks this past week in week 3, just to win, baby. First of all, the Tulsa quarterback, Davis Brin, threw for 428 yards. That's right, 428. 428 yards against the Ohio State University. The same Ohio State University that is filled with 4- and 5-star recruits on defense. You gave up over 500 yards total against the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Not Hurricanes, Hurricane. Shout out to Tulsa. They did lose. Ohio State did end up pulling away, but that game was close for 3 quarters. What is going on with the Ohio State defense? We'll dive into that later. Fresno State quarterback Jake Hayner. And this guy can absolutely ball. He is a player. He transferred to Fresno State from Washington. The transfer portal is making so many of these lower teams competitive now because they're finding places for these high-level recruits who just don't have the playing time or fit in at these high-profile Power 5 schools and programs. So Jake Hayner threw for 455 yards in that big win against number 13 UCLA. Well done, Jake. And this guy, if he leads them, if they win out, he's going to get some Heisman love. This guy is that good. I mean, he can absolutely show up and show out. Next, now, above that, I said the 400-plus yard club, the Virginia quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, who last week I did update you and say via the stats, yards, completions, completion percentage, touchdowns to INTs, he led the entire nation in stats. He was the overall best quarterback. Wow, what a show he put on in a loss at North Carolina. Mr. Armstrong threw for 554 yards. They lost, I believe it was 59-39. So defense was optional in this game, but 554 yards passing. Impressive by anyone against any opponent. So well done, great showing in a loss for you, Mr. Armstrong. Now, time for the lineup. Bring in the potentials. We have a crime, we have a witness, an eyewitness. Let's bring in the unusual suspects. And these are the teams that surprisingly have started 3-0 or undefeated at this point in the season. From the ACC, I've already mentioned Wake Forest is undefeated, looking very solid. Boston College, who I said during my earlier episodes earlier this season, watch out for them. Maybe their chances took a little bit of a tumble with their quarterback being lost for the season, but they're also undefeated, and they're going to have a huge test, a huge potential statement game when they host our Missouri Tigers coming up in Week 4. Out of the Big Ten, the state of Michigan. Michigan State is undefeated. They've been down for several years. And the Michigan Wolverines, who I know you're saying, how can Michigan be down? They're Michigan. But what's happened under Jim Harbaugh the last few seasons? I believe the over-under was 7.5 victories for Michigan this season. And here they are 3-0, looking very impressive. They are absolutely running over opponents. I mean, left and right. I think they've rushed for over 300 yards in all 3 of their victories. Maryland out to a 3-0 start. They held on for a gritty win against the Fighting Illini on Friday night, 20-17, I believe the final score was. But also Rutgers. Rutgers had no problem dispatching the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens from the FCS, from the Colonial Conference. That was actually my upset special for an FCS opponent to record another victory entering Week 3 of Just Win Baby, but Rutgers 3-0 had no problem taking care of business. Out of the SEC, Arkansas still undefeated, 3-0, and Kentucky. Kentucky got tested at home by Chattanooga, another tough FCS opponent, but came out on the right side with a victory, so they're also 3-0. Out of the American Athletic, SMU talked about their walk-off Hail Mary victory over Louisiana Tech. The Mighty Mustangs are 3-0, and so is Memphis. Memphis is having an excellent year, a banner year. Well done for the Tigers. Out of Conference USA, the UTSA Roadrunners, one of my favorite mascots. The Roadrunners and running back Sincere McCormick running over everybody. They're undefeated, 3-0. From the Mountain West has several teams that are 3-0 undefeated, surprisingly. Utah State, the Aggies, 3-0, and they have a big game this week coming up. They host the Boise State Broncos away from their blue turf. Utah State's undefeated. Wyoming, the Cowboys continue to look impressive. They're undefeated. And the San Diego State Aztecs, 3-0. Coach Brady Hoke, the former Michigan coach who was run out of town, chased out of town, has got them playing at a high level. They're 3-0. So well done to those teams from the Mountain West. from the Sun Belt Conference. Sun Belt, absolutely. Coastal Carolina is still undefeated, but they started the season ranked, and they're still ranked. But the South Alabama Jaguars, still undefeated, 3-0, well done Jags. And some independents. Army, the Black Knights playing excellent football, that triple option, they're running it to perfection. You've got to watch an Army game at some point this year. They're undefeated. Liberty, 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 they're undefeated. That's not a huge surprise. I actually still believe they should be ranked. That's a very, very good quality team. They're undefeated. But BYU was ranked last week at the conclusion of week 2, picked up another big victory, as I mentioned earlier this episode, against number 19 Arizona State. BYU 3-0, looking very good without Zach Wilson. They lost Zach Wilson to the NFL first-round draft pick. I thought that their production offensively would drop, but if anything, they look way more balanced than last season. And I'm going to keep my eye out on BYU. And BYU, I'll talk more about them here shortly. So that's the unusual suspects who are still undefeated. Now, the FCS success continued. As I mentioned, Northern Arizona from the Big Sky Conference knock off the Arizona Wildcats. That is now the 9th victory this young season by FCS opponents over Division I opponents. So well done. Golf clap to you. We love it. The parity continues this season. Love that. Keep it up. There may not be many more of these left because now that we are about to enter the main portion of conference season, may not have a lot of opportunities left, but hopefully they can pick off at least one, maybe two more Division I opponents. Now, the last quick take I have for you today is, who are the 4 legitimate playoff teams? In a little bit, when I unveil the AP poll, which is very similar to my team power rankings, which I'll unveil here shortly, there's a lot of teams that are ranked the same spot in both, but I could right now just pop a hole in every single one of the top 10 and tell you that this is their absolute problem that they have that cannot be denied, that everyone knows about. So I still don't know who the 4 best teams are. Who are the legitimate players for a potential playoff berth this season? The parity continues. It's been wanted for so long. Embrace it. We love it. We have more football to watch until that's unveiled. Who can contest for the Game of Thrones for the playoffs? Fun stuff there. Now, let's get into the AP poll. So, the new AP poll, post week 3, just to win, baby. First of all, I'd like to welcome to the poll Kansas State. They defeated a pretty tough, good game Nevada squad. Carson Strong, a quarterback you need to be made aware of. He'll be playing someplace on Sundays here in the near future. They took care of Nevada with their starting quarterback. Skylar Thompson was out for that game. Still got a very impressive victory. They're 3-0. So they entered this week's poll at number 25. Number 22, Fresno State, after that big upset at UCLA, enters the poll at number 22. Michigan State, with their impressive road victory, upsetting Miami, they enter this week's poll at number 20. Our big movers. Who's moving up? We got some big movers. Moving up 8 spots is BYU after defeating the Sun Devils. Michigan moved up 6 spots with their impressive victory over Western Michigan. Actually, it was NIU. I believe they played Northern Illinois over the weekend. My apologies there, Michigan fans. So they moved up 6 spots, as did Penn State. Penn State had a very impressive victory over number 22 Auburn in Happy Valley during the whiteout. They also moved up 6 spots. Ole Miss, Penn State, Penn State And Ole Miss, very impressive offensive showing once again. Matt Corral absolutely is now a potential Heisman Trophy finalist, performing at a very high level. And Arkansas is moving on, doing what they do, run the ball, take care of the ball, tough defense under Barry Odom, former Missouri coach. Those teams all moved up 4 spots in the AP poll. Moving down, UCLA dropped 11 spots. A big whopping 11-spot drop after losing at home to Fresno State. Clemson, from their lack of offense, a very poor showing, drops 3 spots in the poll. Oklahoma and Ohio State. Oklahoma escaped against Nebraska. That's right. A Nebraska team that has absolutely looked lost. Oklahoma did win by a touchdown by 7 points at home, and they were a 23-point favorite at home. Wow, what is going on there in Norman? The Sooners drop 1 spot in the poll. And Ohio State, after giving up 500 yards to Tulsa and quarterback Davis Brin, as I mentioned, they also dropped 1 spot in the poll. And those who are moving out, moving out. Number 15, Virginia Tech, gone after losing on the road at West Virginia. Number 19, Arizona State, gone after losing at a ranked BYU squad. And number 24, Miami, gone after losing at home to Michigan State. So this is what the updated post-Week 3 poll looks like. Number 25, Kansas State. 24, UCLA. 23, Auburn. Auburn only dropped 1 spot, even though they lost at Penn State. Still a very good showing. Fresno State, like I mentioned, 22. North Carolina, State number 21. Michigan State, number 20. Michigan, number 19, after their impressive win. Wisconsin was idle. They remain at number 18. Coastal Carolina, I think, actually moved down 1 spot, but still stay in the teens, ranked number 17. Arkansas up to number 16. Number 15, the big mover, was BYU there at 15. Iowa State stays at number 14 after a very big win, lo and behold, over the UNLV Running Rebels. Ole Miss moves up to number 13. Number 12, Notre Dame, looked very anemic again. Got the victory against Purdue, but still did not impress. They remain at number 12. And number 11, Florida. Florida did lose at home to Alabama, but gave the Tide everything they could handle and more. More on that game coming here soon. Florida stays at number 11, so they don't move anywhere after that very impressive showing against the number 1 team in the nation. Now the top 10. Number 10 is Ohio State after dropping a spot. Clemson, number 9, after dropping 3 spots. Number 7, Texas A&M. Number 6, Penn State moves up after their win against Auburn. Number 5, Iowa stays at number 5. No movement from last week. Go Hawks. Keep moving up. Number 4, Oklahoma, moving down a spot. So now the new number 3 team of the nation is the Oregon Ducks. Took care of business, which was expected, against FCS Stony Brook. Number 2, Georgia, stays at the 2 spot. And number 1, again, after a victory at Florida, tough environment, is the Alabama Crimson Tide. So that's how the AP poll has shaked out now after week 3. So now, let me give you my updated team power rankings after week 3. In the AP poll, I definitely do take into account when I provide these to you, but I will give you reasons why I have these teams where they are. And we did have some movement from last week's team power rankings. So let's get into those right now. And if you missed last week, what I do, I always give you my top 10 plus 2. So the 12 best teams I consider right now, but this is ever-changing week by week. So let's go ahead and start off with number 1, Alabama. Alabama, they were number 1 last week. They stay number 1. They passed their first real test on the road. Hostile environment. The swamp was out of control. It was lit. And they walk out of there with a 31-29 victory. A missed PAT ended up being the difference. But I got to tell you, the Alabama, this is not your usual Alabama. And I've said this several times this young season already on previous episodes, that a lot of these juggernauts, these power players, they are showing major kinks in their armor. And Alabama is no different. This is what's happening there in Tuscaloosa. The first quarter, Alabama looked very Alabama-like. I believe they got out to a 21-3, 21-7 lead. But then after that, Florida absolutely dominated this game to where they almost came all the way back. And like I said, a missed PAT. They scored late, had to go for the two-point conversion, did not convert. But if this game was 5 minutes longer, I don't know if Alabama escapes the swamp with a victory. I think then it'd be a very, very long bus ride to the airport and a longer ride home on the jet. But this Alabama squad, they look a little wounded. Right now, when you look at, and I broke this down earlier today, I took 1 through 14. I looked at the stats of the 14 teams in the SEC, and as far as offensively, as far as total offense, total yards a game, passing yards, rushing yards, attempts, average per rush, average per completion, so on and so forth. And you would not believe where Alabama is right now. They right now are 10th. They are 10th overall offensively in the SEC. As of this week, it's only been 3 games. Week 3, they have shown no ability to be able to run the ball, and that was shown against the Gators. They only rushed for 91 yards on the ground. And maybe to this point they haven't had to show they can run, but this team is having trouble running the football. And the way that Nick Saban likes to play and win, and we've seen this time and time again, get up and then ice it. Ice it with tough defense, but run it down their throats, run out the clock, board the bus, board the plane, get home, relax. If they can't run the ball, they're not going to be able to ice games that way or move the chains. And if they give other offenses, especially in the SEC, I'm looking at you, Ole Miss, potentially another possession or two because they can't maintain possession themselves, it could be a long year for Alabama, I'm telling you. So having big-time issues running the ball. I mean, offensively, 10th in the SEC. That's unheard of. Is the sky falling? Am I bullshitting? I'm not. Pardon my language. Also, their defense, their rush defense. This is not the usual Alabama D that doesn't allow anything, that makes you pack your lunch, dinner, and dessert. They allowed the Gators to rush for 245 yards against them. Like I said, if you take away that first quarter, they win the game. But you have to win all 4 quarters. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. 5 more minutes in this game, I think Florida wins. And I think it's tough for people to say, Blair, you're wrong, or Alabama Joe, Alabama Jane, who wants to debate me or call me out. It'd be tough for them to persuade me. I mean, this team looks big-time vulnerable right now. But if there is a coach that can fix it, we know it's Nick Saban. So Florida, though, I mean, moral victories. A lot of people are congratulating them for you look good in defeat. But to quote Dr. Henry Jones Sr., there's no silver medal in this race for second place. Little Indiana Jones there for you. So Alabama, though, with their issues, still maintains the number 1 spot. Georgia, they won their conference opener very convincingly against South Carolina at home between the hedges. So no movement for the Bulldogs. Oregon, like I said, business as usual. Won big, scored early and often against FCS Stony Brook, 48-7. Now Oklahoma did drop a spot, so Oregon did move up a spot from last week's power rankings. Oklahoma drops from 3 to 4. And I need to ask you, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? What is going on? You looked so putsy-futsy against Nebraska, a team that Illinois absolutely dominated on both lines of scrimmage. You win 23 to 16. You were a 23-point favorite at home. You have a Heisman Trophy finalist starting quarterback. What is going on? You let Nebraska hang around and hang around. And perhaps, if not for potentially the not just defensive play of the year, but the play of the year. If you haven't seen this interception by DJ Graham late in the game, I think, Nebraska had the ball late in the fourth quarter. Potential drive to either tie the score or maybe go for 2 and take a lead. Makes this incredible one-handed interception. You've got to watch it. So potentially the play of the year prevented that upset happening at home for the Sooners. But here's something that's troubling. That to this point, Oklahoma has played 2 Division I opponents in Tulane and Nebraska, both victories, but they have only won by a combined 12 points against those teams. Wow, that is troubling. That is concerning for this high-vaunted, high-ceiling offense like it's supposed to be every year. What is going on? And that's why I believe we cannot count Iowa State out of the Big 12 race. We can't do it. So Oklahoma, you got to right the ship on offense. What is going on? Next is Iowa. Iowa was 5 last week. They remain there now. A very Iowa-like victory, 30-7 over Kent State. And I'm going to talk more about this victory later in the episode when I speak more specifically on what I saw from our black and golds. Number 6, Penn State. Penn State moves up 4 spots from number 10 to number 6 from last week's team power rankings following that victory over a ranked Auburn team. This Penn State team, very workmanlike victory, 28-20. This might be perhaps the most balanced team that I've seen in the nation. I mean, defensively, solid. Offensively, they look pretty good, but I think they could use a little bit more consistency on the offensive side. Special teams look really solid as well. This is a very well put together, oiled machine there at Penn State. So, and I hate to look ahead, but potentially a huge matchup is looming between Penn State and my Iowa Hawkeyes in Week 6. But I don't want to look ahead too much. You got to take care of business week by week. But yeah, very balanced, very impressive Penn State squad so far. They check in at number 6. Number 7 is Ohio State. Ohio State does move down 1 spot from last week. Way too close for comfort, late versus Tulsa. I mean, they did pull out the victory, 41-20 was the final. And once again, 428 yards passing for Davis Brin. Wow, that cannot be accepted. You are the Ohio State University. You are recruiting at an incredibly large, a different universe, not just in the Big Ten. I mean, it's a different universe, different sport, different everything. And you are getting gashed and gouged on defense with 4- and 5-star recruits galore, a plethora, yes, Jefe, I would say a plethora of 4- and 5-star recruits. What is going on with your defense? So Ohio State absolutely has some issues that they need to address quickly. Number 8, Texas A&M. I did have them move up 1 spot from last week to number 8. They did show a pulse on offense. They pitched a shutout. I believe it was 34-0 over the Lobos of New Mexico State. So offensively, maybe they found a little bit more of a rhythm with their backup quarterback, Zach Calzada. Their starting quarterback was lost early in the game. Week 2 at Colorado is going to be out until mid to late October. So Texas A&M showed a little bit better result offensively compared to their 10-7 victory last week against Colorado. So they move up 1 spot to number 8. Moving up 2 spots to number 9 is the Cincinnati Bearcats. Very impressive victory at Indiana. 38-24. They executed very well. They gathered themselves. They answered the bell, so to speak, to me anyway. They forced Indiana into a few errors, kind of got them outside their comfort zone, especially quarterback Michael Penix. I did pick Indiana to pull the upset because I thought it could happen, but also that would help to boost Iowa's profile after the shellacking Iowa gave Indiana week 1, 34-6. But very, very big, impressive win for the Bearcats, who are trying to climb the ladder to potentially get into the playoff discussion. They are idle this week, but next week, huge game. Next week, the Bearcats, who are ranked, and remember, they are number 8 in the AP poll. They travel to South Bend to take on mighty Notre Dame and the Golden Domers in South Bend. So huge game next week in week 5 that we'll be talking about some other time. Number 10, dropping 3 spots is Clemson. And I've already mentioned 14 points. They can't run the ball. They can't pass the ball. Offensive line can't protect my guy DJ Ucla, having major problems. They continue to sputter. And now here's something else that's very troubling. I told you about Oklahoma's. They've only beaten their Division I opponents by a combined 12 points. Even worse for Clemson. They faced 2 Power 5 opponents as well, Georgia Tech, and also opening up with a very good Georgia team. But in those 2 games, they have only scored, and this you can check this if you think this is incorrect, but it's absolutely spot on. Clemson has only scored 17 points. 17 points total against their 2 Division I opponents. Wow. What is going on with the Clemson offense? Once again, I can go ahead and pop every one of these teams' balloons right now. There is a major problem with every single one of them. There's still so much more that has to be proven. Who is going to step up and separate from the others? Now, new team, number 11. So here we go, our +2s. So my top 10 I gave you. So joining the party this week, I've got to put number 11 is BYU. Whether you like them here or not, they're one of the very few teams. I think there's only 2 teams that can boast this, BYU and my Iowa Hawkeyes. Only 2 teams have defeated 2 ranked teams, and BYU is the other one of those who have done that. Very impressive, but 3-0 as an independent, as a non-Power 5 team against the Pac-12. So BYU, number 11. And this is interesting, BYU's schedule does set up very well for them. I mean, they face 5 more Power 5 opponents. Washington State, Baylor, they host Virginia, they go to USC, and the other one I can't remember, but they're going to have an opportunity to run the table. And if they do that, so that'll be then victories over potentially 7 or 8 Power 5 opponents. They have to be in the playoff discussion. This independent rule, aka the Notre Dame rule, has to apply to them as well. So I am on the BYU train. Keep getting it done. This week they have a pretty not a strong test, but they do host a South Florida squad in Provo. Should improve to 4-0. Just win, baby. Keep winning, Cougars. I want to see what you can do. Just turn this playoff upside down. BYU in, not Notre Dame, the usual independent. That's what I want. And number 12 is the aforementioned Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Drumgate, very pedestrian-like. I mean, I'm going to talk more about Drumgate in the Week 4 preview episode later this week, as far as how they shafted Purdue and their fans and their marching band and their traditions by not letting them bring the world's largest drum to South Bend. looked awful. I'm sorry, Notre Dame AD, Notre Dame president. You both, by allowing this to happen, you both look like something that rhymes with stick. And we'll talk more about that on Thursday. But Notre Dame, they got the victory. They stay at number 12. Huge game this week coming up, which we'll talk about in our Week 4 preview show. They travel to Chicago. Come on, baby, don't you want to go back to that same old place, sweet home, Chicago. As I jiggle and wiggle, they traveled to Chicago to play Wisconsin at Soldier Field. We'll talk about that more during our Week 4 preview show. So there is my power rankings post Week 3. A little bit of movement, one new addition. So next week during the Week 4 review, catch these. And once again, tune in, like, share, subscribe, comment. I want to hear what you have to say about this and anything. I will get your comments on air. I'll do whatever I can to keep you, the Black and Gold family, involved, to give you the credit, the love, the shout-outs. Sammy Sosa style. Keep it up. So next thing we're going to move into, let me get a little swig of agua here, folks. My throat's getting a little bit sore. That's better. I want to take a few minutes to talk about what I learned and what I saw from our beloved Black and Golds, the Missouri Tigers, and our Iowa Hawkeyes. Let's start with Missouri, since, once again, I am a resident of the Show Me State. I do have several friends, family members, all about Missouri. That makes me all about Missouri. They are my local Power 5 team. Columbia's not that far away from where I live. So I definitely do give some love and shout out to the Missouri Tigers. And how this game played out. And during our Week 3 preview show, I mentioned this is what I wanted Mizzou to do with FCS opponent Southeast Missouri, good old Smu. And they really did exactly what I forecasted or wanted them to do. The starters, they only really needed one half from them to put this game on ice. Big at halftime. The starters primarily sat the entire second quarter, which they needed to do that. Connor Bazelak needed to get a few reps, keep performing at the level that he is, and they definitely needed to rest the legs of Tyler Beatty, their all-purpose, all-around running back. I think he was absolutely their best weapon on offense, can run very well, catch very well, an absolute weapon, and you need to account for him if you're opposing defenses. He basically sat the entire second half. Smu did score 28 points in the second half. The final score ended up being 59-28, but I'm not too concerned since this was primarily against Missouri's second teamers and their deep reserves. And Smu basically kept most of their starters in and their second teamers. So it was good for Missouri to gain some reps and depth and strength on the defensive side of the ball, because that's really what they still needed to work on. That is their biggest weakness. I make no issue saying this, or it's not a secret. Their defensive line, that is what's going to make or break, potentially have a good to great or poor average season. That is what it's all going to hinge on for the Missouri Tigers. Definitely they looked the part, but they should have, in all respects, because of their opponent. Definitely looked much better on the defensive line side of the ball. Controlled the point of attack. Moved the pocket, moved the line of scrimmage. Very good showing. Special teams looks really good. I mean, their kicker, Harrison Mevis, made his field goal attempt. He's now a career. He's 20 for 23. That could be a big-time secret weapon for them if they find themselves in a really, really close, nip-tuck kind of game. To have a reliable field goal kicker, absolutely the ace in the hole. The ace of spades. That's what you need in these tough games, especially in conference play. And Mr. Mevis has never missed a PAT attempt, even better. So looking very good on the special team side of the ball is Missouri. Defense is still really going to have to show up, and we'll see what kind of growth they made because they have a tough opponent coming up week 4, and we'll talk about this more on the week 4 preview. They traveled to Chestnut Hill to take on a game Boston College team that is very physical. Their head coach, Hafley, used to be an assistant coach at Ohio State, brings that Big Ten mentality of ground and pound, physicality. Mizzou's going to be up against it, so we'll see what kind of growth they made, but overall it looked much better. So now, just show me on the field what you can do at BC. But overall, very happy with Missouri's game and how they looked against Smu over the weekend. Now on to our Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa, they were able to slow down a very up-tempo, fast Kent State offense. Now, this Kent State team, their nickname is Flash Dash, because if you missed it, last week I informed you, they were second only to Oklahoma last season to the number of plays run per game offensively. I mean, their tempo is fast, and by the way, fast. Iowa was absolutely able to control them, contain them, pulled away late for a 30-7 victory. I did think Iowa would come out with a little bit of a hangover, following those 2 big victories in weeks 1 and 2 against Indiana and last week at Iowa State. I did think they'd come out a little flat. They did. It was only 16-7 at halftime, but definitely pulled away late in the game. And this is what I saw. Spencer Petras, I said on our Week 3 Just Win Baby preview, Iowa definitely needs to improve their vertical pass game, and they absolutely made that a point of emphasis for this game. Spencer Petras completed 69% of his pass attempts on Saturday, much better from the 50% that he was up to that point. But that could also be because these are 2 good defenses they played in Indiana and Iowa State. So definitely looked a little bit better. Ended up throwing for 209 yards, which doesn't pop off the page at you. And that's what they also need to still improve on. I mean, obviously, the completion percentage, you want it to be at least about 65%, so he got there. But they're only averaging 5.8 yards per completion. That has to increase. You have to look further down the field and get a couple of big chunk plays. To do that, he definitely needed to get his wide receivers more involved. He did that. Wide receivers this week against Kent State made 11 catches, but didn't really make any big plays with it other than one. Nico Reganey had a long, 35, 40-yard gain from a little out pattern, broke a couple tackles. So they still need to work on their vertical pass game. But the one thing that Spencer Petras still is not doing, and keep this up, he is not turning the ball over, has yet to throw a pick on the young season. Because of how good this Iowa defense is playing, your offense, you may only need to throw for 200 yards. Just don't turn it over or put your defense in a bad situation. So much better from an offensive perspective for the Hawkeyes against Kent State. But still, they have one more week, kind of a gift. And this is really a gift from above. These 2 weeks, these 2 opponents for Iowa are absolutely heaven sent with Kent State. This week coming up, they do host Colorado State, who just simply is bad. They lost over the weekend to Vandy, who is just bad. So I expect the offense to keep doing what they do. Get the offensive line some more reps, work on the vertical pass game, keep making strides. The run game definitely got on track. Tyler Goodson had himself a career day, with 153 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. Great job, offensive line. Tyler, keep it up. So the run game definitely needs to keep improving as well. Now the defense. Wow. I already said the streak is now 25 games. But more impressively, against this type of a up-tempo, fast offense of Kent State, I did not see this coming at all. I definitely anticipated that the streak would extend, and I did predict it during our Week 3 preview, but I did not see this. When you face a fast offense like Kent State, to get these kinds of numbers, they're impressive. Iowa recorded 10 tackles for a loss, which is a lot, and also recorded 7 sacks. I believe that's 7 sacks. When an offense like Kent State that gets rid of the ball quick, to tally 10 tackles for a loss and 7 sacks, that's impressive. And I don't care if you say, well, it's Kent State, all you Iowa haters, people who still aren't believing how good this defense is, it's time to start believing. And to further let you know, I'm going to give you some murder by the numbers, so to speak, give you numbers of everything that's gone into this streak. So during this 25-game streak, here's some impressive numbers. And remember, this is in the era of, the spread, the RPO, the pistol, the triple option, points. The more points, the better. Listen to these numbers that the Iowa defense is surrendering during this streak. And I saw these online, and I actually updated them post the Kent State victory and Kent State game. First of all, the Iowa defense during this streak is only allowing 13.5 points a game. Stellar. That right there speaks volumes, but this next number is even more. When you think of the age we live in, once again, of high-octane offenses and score to win, their defense is only allowing 194.6 passing yards per game, under 200 yards passing in 25 games. That's all I got to say about that. They're averaging 2 turnovers per game. Impressive right there as well. 1 passing touchdown per game is what they're averaging, exactly at 1, not 1.0 or 0.9, 1. And they are allowing 0.0, not 0.0, Dean Wormer, 0.8 rushing touchdowns a game during the streak. Not even allowing 1 rushing touchdown. These numbers are absolutely gaudy. You have to understand what we are witnessing. And yes, this is not going to last forever. It's not going to be sustainable. Hopefully the Iowa D can keep this going as long as they can. But we may not see something like this ever again, folks. It's going to be a while, okay? And the last number to share with you of numbers within the streak, the Iowa defense is getting 3.1 sacks per game during this streak. Another impressive number. Now, something else, because all of you doubters out there who are going to say, oh, well, they're playing in the Big Ten West. They're not playing big-time offenses. Charlie, my co-host, might be one of these. Because they're not playing in the SEC, or playing Ohio State every year, or playing in the Pac-12, or playing Clemson. Let me share with you the teams they have played during this streak and those they haven't played. First of all, let's go with they've played teams from 3 Power 5 conferences. Primarily, yes, the Big Ten, but also they've played in bowl games against Mississippi State from the SEC and USC from the Pac-12. Both ended in bowl victories, by the way, as well as a side note. So they faced 3 Power 5 conference opponents. They've played Iowa State twice, and this is under the Matt Campbell regime, who's absolutely turned them around. Still can play for big prizes this year, just like they did last year, potentially that close. They played Iowa State twice. They've played Penn State twice with all of their success that James Franklin has had. They faced Wisconsin twice, which Wisconsin, is not a spread up-tempo game team, but how effectively they run the ball. I mean, ask some of the teams that they put up 60 burgers against, just primarily running the ball on the ground. So they faced Wisconsin twice. They faced Purdue and Jeff Brom, who schemes. He's an offensive genius, schemes very well from an offensive perspective. They've faced Purdue twice during the streak. Minnesota twice. Yes, last year was an off year for Minnesota, but the previous year in 2019, when they started, I believe, 9-0, when they had those impressive numbers, an impressive victory over undefeated Penn State, and then came to Kinnick, were upset by Iowa at home, a game which I was at with my brother. So they've defeated and played Minnesota twice during the streak, and played Michigan and Indiana once. So these aren't just your rollover teams. It's not just Illinois or Nebraska or Rutgers or Maryland. No offense to those teams. They are looking better this year. But they are playing teams that are legitimate. And let me tell you who they're not playing. I'm going to break out right now my magazine, my Phil Steele. And I haven't looked at this yet. I haven't opened to the SEC conference breakdown portion of this magazine. Let me just go through. I bet right now every single SEC squad sometime this year has already or will play an FCS opponent. Let's start. See, Alabama, let's see, Mercer already played. Great game there, Alabama. The Aggies of Texas A&M, later on this season play Prairie View A&M. Great, good call on that. The LSU Go Tigers. LSU, let's see, they've already played mighty McNeese State from the FCS. Great job there. The Ole Miss Rebels, who do you got? Let's see. Oh, they've already played the Austin Peay Governors from the FCS. Okay, great. So who's next? The Auburn Tigers. You've already played Alabama State from the FCS ranks. Good, great for you. The Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Who do you have? Let's see. Oh, late in the season, you play the Tennessee State Tigers, I believe, from the FCS. Okay, status quo. Arkansas. You've already played, let's see, you have Arkansas Pine Bluff later in the year. Great. Okay, that's terrific. The Georgia Bulldogs. Charleston Southern late in the year. Great. Okay, you don't say. Another FCS squad. You kind of see where I'm going with this. Let's just continue. Why not? I mean, Florida. The Gators, let's see. You play Samford. Not Stanford. Samford from the FCS. Old Sanford and Sons. Kentucky. You just got done playing Chattanooga over week 3. Just win, baby, from the FCS. Missouri, you just played SEMO over the week, so congrats to you. South Carolina, what do you got here? You played Eastern Illinois, the Panthers out of the FCS already. Great for you. Tennessee, who have you played or going to play? Let's see. Tennessee Tech, great. Vandy, even Vanderbilt gets in on it. They already played and lost to East Tennessee State. So there you have it. Every single SEC opponent has scheduled this year, has already played or will play an FCS opponent, including our Missouri Tigers. And guess what? During the 25-game streak for the Iowa defense, zero FCS opponents on their schedule. That's who they haven't played. So all you haters, you can keep hating, but the Iowa defense is that good. And right now, I'm going to go on record to say this. I'm not saying the hardware's coming to Iowa City. I'm not saying I'm going to book my hotel in Indianapolis for the Big Ten title game. I'm not saying that. Iowa is going to lose a game or two. Their offense, I think, will cost them a hiccup at some point. But make no mistake about it. Iowa right now, the defense being played in Iowa City is Big Ten championship caliber. It absolutely is. And right now, Iowa, they have one of the top 5 defenses in all the nation. They do, whether you want to admit that or not, because it's Iowa or because they simply don't have the 4- and 5-star recruits on that side of the ball stockpiled, like Clemson and Georgia. And both of those teams are in the top 5 defenses in the country. So Iowa is right there with them. Okay? So that's it. I'm sorry. I know you had to listen to me being a Homer Simpson, which I'm not being a homer. I'm just presenting you the facts. If I wasn't an Iowa fan, I still would give much love and kudos, respect to this streak. But like the wedding singer said, I have the microphone so you will listen to every single word I have to say. So that is what I saw from our beloved Black and Golds over the weekend. So Iowa, you have another gift opponent this week coming up, Colorado State. Keep working on the offense, get it right. And Missouri, I look forward to the game Saturday at Boston College. That's must-see TV. All right, so our last topic of the day, kind of revisit how I did during our week 3 Pick'em segment. And if you joined us earlier in the season, for a couple episodes, I was joined by my co-host, Charlie Oswalt, who represents all things Missouri Tigers, one of my buddies, my compadres, my comrade. He has been unable to join us for several weeks. Hopefully, we'll be back in the near future. But him and I have an ongoing contest throughout the season. Each and every week, I'll pick 15 games. Some will be the high-profile games that are must-see TV, but some are kind of the off-the-radar games. And also, within those 15 games I pick, we'll pick every single Iowa and Missouri game. We'll always have a non-Power 5 spotlight game between two non-Power 5 teams. We'll have an Academy spotlight game, which will always include either Army, Air Force, or Navy. We have the spotlight game of the week, which last week was Alabama at Florida, number 1 versus number 11. And we always will have an FCS spotlight game when we have two legitimate FCS programs square off against each other. So our ongoing right now through 3 weeks, this is where Charlie and I are. We're both at 28-17, so we're at 62% correct, and our goal was to be 70 to 75% by the end of the regular season. So we got a little bit more work to do, but following week 2, we were both at 53% correct. So definitely heading in the right direction. So right now we are at a dead even tie, deadlocked 28-17. And also, during week 3, we had a guest picker join us, my friend Brett, who lives up in the Chicagoland area. Big Ten fan number 1, has been a loyal viewer of the Black and Gold vlog. He joined us. I'll let you know how we did. And it's my pleasure to announce that this week we will also be joined by a guest picker. My brother, Anthony, will be joining us to take on the People's Champion. He wants his shot at the title. So last week, this is how it turned out. Brett went 11-4. Good. Very good, Brett. But not good enough. Both myself and Charlie went 12-3. So tie goes to the home team. The People's Champion stays on top for 2 weeks straight. So 12-3, both Charlie and I, and 11-4. Well done, though, Brett. You were close. We'll see if other guest pickers can eclipse your record. And at the end of the season, we'll give much love and shout out to our overall best guest picker. So let's kind of revisit how we did. All 3 of us. Oh, excuse me there. Let me get another swig of water there. It was all that hot sauce for lunch. All right. So all 3 of us, we all missed Arizona State versus BYU. We all picked the Devils to win at Provo, which BYU got it done. I missed Indiana over number 8 Cincinnati. Charlie and Brett had Cincy beating Indiana. I did not. I got West Virginia over number 15 Virginia Tech right. Charlie and Brett both picked the Hokies to get it done. So I was able to pick against the Hokies, did the hokey pokey, and turned my pick'em fortune around. I got Duke over Northwestern right. Charlie and Brett both picked the Wildcats to go into Duke and get it done. Did not happen. And Charlie is the only one who picked Oklahoma State to go to the Smurf turf to Boise State and win. He got that right. Brett and I both picked Boise State. So overall was a fun week. Love the picks. Probably my favorite segment. Let us know how we're doing. We'll love the feedback. So just to revisit, last thing we're going to talk about is to kind of revisit my week 3 potential. What games, Admiral Akbar? The trap. My potential trap games that I brought to your attention. We'll see how I did. And I did point out 4, and overall I did pretty good. I missed on Purdue at number 12 Notre Dame. I thought Notre Dame would potentially be looking ahead to this week's matchup against number 18 Wisconsin. Man, they still looked lackadaisical, but they got the victory, so that was a miss. Also missed Tulane at number 17 Ole Miss. I thought Ole Miss would be looking ahead to next week's week 5. Week 5, they travel to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama. I thought they'd be looking ahead to that game in a couple weeks, but had no problem taking care of the Green Wave of Tulane. So that was a miss. Now, next game was a direct hit. I said Mississippi State would be in trouble, potentially a trap against Memphis at Memphis, which they did walk away with a loss. I thought that they'd be potentially looking ahead to this week. They host LSU. Go Tigers. So maybe they were looking ahead to that game, or maybe just Memphis is a better team. So I got that one right. And the second direct hit was Fresno State at number 13 UCLA. I didn't think UCLA would not have the Bulldogs on their radar. Boom, boom, because of how well they played Oregon up in Eugene, only losing by a touchdown. But yes, I got this one. This is singular battleship kind of direct hit. So Fresno State getting it done. Maybe UCLA was looking ahead to this week's matchup as they travel to Palo Alto to take on the Stanford Cardinal. So hey, 50% on trap games. I'll take that. Both myself and Admiral Akbar, we're happy with those results. So that is it. That is today's episode. Our week 3 review was a lot of fun. Once again, please feel free, spread the word. Like, share, subscribe, smash those buttons. Save comments, comment. Let me know how we're doing. I'd love to get you involved. So as normal, expect our week 4 preview. So once again, should be out Thursday afternoon, maybe Friday morning as normal. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. Appreciate your time. I would not be doing this without you. Thank you. We love you. And until later this week, thanks for joining me on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Peace, love, and progress. See you later.